Welcome to the She Will Shine podcast, where we bring you the real stories of female business owners. My name is Danielle Price and I'm the founder of She Will Shine, a supportive business network for women. It's time to give a voice to women in business and discover their journey.
Hi everyone and welcome to the She Will Shine podcast. Today we have the lovely Erika McInerney. How are you, Erika?
I'm very good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you for being here.
No, it's good. It's a pleasure.
Erika is a BA and Master's Qualified Marketing and Communication Specialist with over 25 years experience across a huge range of industries and a proven track record of putting social media to work. Erika now brings her knowledge and expertise in digital and online marketing to regional businesses, individuals and community groups to empower them with the skills to compete in the online space at her business, Mac&Ernie. I love that business name, Erika.
Yeah, it's Perfect. A bit of fun.
I wanted to ask you, what did you want to be when you grew up, when you were younger?
I really wanted to be a vet when I was really young, desperately wanted to be a vet. But as I started to go through high school, I started to realize that actually maths was not my strong suit. Still not my strong suit. But writing was. Reading, writing. I was always writing stories. I was just constantly writing. And so I really wanted to be a journalist. Yeah. And then when I finished school, or finished my exams and stuff, I went away for a few months with some friends. And I don't know, it all got a little bit silly and a little bit hectic. And then when I turned up to do my journalism entry exam, I completely tuned out of, what had been happening in the world. And yeah, I don't think I did very well, to be honest. Anyway, didn't get into journalism. And so I ended up just kind of doing an arts degree and doing a whole bunch of subjects that were just really interesting, like popular culture and radio and a little, like writing and literature and all of this stuff. And yeah, I kind of found my way to advertising, as you do.
Yeah, but I found my way to advertising. Yeah. I can understand that.
I still want to write. I still have this idea that one day I'm going to write a book. I just don't have the time. So yeah, maybe one day.
So you went through your arts degree,
came
out the other side, and then what happened?
I started working before I'd even finished my degree. I started working in an agency, and I was there for a few years. And then that was it. I was just in advertising for it was like 15 or 16 years before I moved to Warragul. In that time I went over and did the stint in the UK. That was interesting. I was there in 2001, which was a really strange year to be in the UK because foot and mouth. I don't know if you remember, there was this massive outbreak of foot and mouth. So when we were traveling sort of throughout the UK, like you would have to get out, if you're on a bus or if you're in a car, you'd have to get out and wash your feet in these buckets, and the car tires would have to go through they had these weird things on the road that would disinfect everything. And yeah, it was a pretty crazy time. And then I found myself working for this big, huge global tourism company called World of TUI. And my division was the Americas. And so we did all travel brochures and stuff for travel agents and things like that. So brochures and these big catalogs and all kinds of cool stuff. And then in September 2001, people didn't want to travel to the States anymore because of the Twin Towers. Yeah. And so it was a funny year. But then I came back home and started working in advertising again, and just kind of did that for a really long time.
Were you always with the same agency, or did you jump agencies a few times?
I jumped a bit. one agency I worked at 4 times, and
wow.
the 4th time I worked there was general manager of the Melbourne office. So yeah, that was good. It was good times because I was in a fairly sort of specialist area, which was employer branding, recruitment advertising, and also worked a lot in commercial real estate and residential residential estates and things like that. Yeah, kind of there was a few agencies that really specialized in that. So yeah, hopped in and out of those a few times, which is good fun. And you were always working with the same people. So we had
advertising, it's such a small world. Everyone knows everyone.
Yeah, and we would all kind of move together. So you would always go somewhere and know people. And also too, you would move with the clients. You know, if you were working for a major client and that client moved to another agency, often they would say, I want to take you with me. And so there'd be a little bit of movement there, which was always those moments where you had to like pack your desk and get out.
Off you go on the
get
day.
Out.
Yeah,
awkward stuff. But no, it was good. It was really fun. I mean, like I learned a lot. I do joke that I do have a little bit of PTSD. No, yeah, from working in advertising, because it was pretty full on, and it's not for the faint-hearted. It's not beer and ping pong, although there is a bit of that. It's actually just generally really, really hard work, and long hours, and really demanding clients as well. Yeah, it's good. It's a really interesting way to grow up.
Yeah, I only lasted 2 years in my advertising agency, and I just had enough. I wanted to get out. That was my last full-time job. Funny that.
It is. Yeah. Well, I mean, that was my last full-time job too. I mean, apart from obviously what I'm doing now, but it was, like I found when I had my first child, and then I had to go back to work. I just felt like I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't give. You had to give, and I loved it. But then I realized that actually I loved my family more, and time just became more precious, and I just didn't feel like I could give what I needed to give anymore.
But I couldn't, like when I left, it was because I wanted to have a family, so I wasn't pregnant yet. But I was like, I just couldn't imagine life at an advertising agency with a child. Like it was just like, there's just no way I could do it.
No, I mean, hard. It was really hard, and just the travel and having to put her in childcare when she was only like 10 months old, and it was. I think that was probably a really good decision.
So you were still living in Melbourne at that time. When did the move to Warragul come?
It was 2011. So I was pregnant with my son, who was born in November that year, and we'd talked about it. We'd talked about moving. We'd been talking about moving for quite a while, and we'd settled on. Well, we'd kind of settled on Warragul in a bit of a roundabout way. Like my husband's from Melbourne, and he'd never lived down this way. I grew up in Gippsland, and I went to school in Warragul, so it was kind of familiar to me. And but we'd started to look, because we were living sort of really central. We were living right near Chadstone, but we had a 2-bedroom unit, and we sort of realized actually it was going to get pretty small. So we started looking, and we wanted a house, and we just started getting further and further and further out, and started to realize that if we were going to stay, I was going to have to stay full time working in advertising, and we just started to question what actually we wanted to do with our lives. And one of my oldest friends had moved down here a few years before with his wife, and they had a little girl about a month after we'd had our first. And so we came down and visited, and quizzed them and had a look around and
suss it all out.
And then we just started looking for the right house, because we wanted to be really central. yeah, we found a house and we sold our place in Melbourne, and we just packed up and came down on a really rainy day, and then it rained for like 6 months straight. And my husband was like, "What the hell? What have you done?" It was a big decision, and it was a really interesting decision, because it was hard for me to come back, but God, it was just the best thing we ever did, and we can't even imagine going back now and raising our kids in Melbourne. We've just got such a good life here.
And so you moved back to Warragul. You found this new life. When did you decide? Did you work for someone else, or did you think, oh, now's the time to try something?
Well, part of the reason why we moved here was so that I wouldn't have to work. I had this idea that I was going to be a stay-at-home mum, and I set about. We got some chicken, and I put a veggie patch, and
Love it.
and I was just going to do all this stuff and
live the life.
Yeah, and I joined a mother's group, which was really nice. That friend that I'd said, his wife was in a mother's group, and so she invited me to join her mother's group. So I made some really nice connections there, and we're going to farmers markets and doing all this stuff, and one of the girls in that group and I decided that we were going to start a farmers market in Warragul, because there wasn't one, and so that. It took us quite a while to get that, up and going. And in the meantime, she got pregnant and had another baby, and we ended up launching that in 2013. And it was massive. Got like a $20-something thousand grant to get it started. And I think on the opening day we had over 1,000, like 1,200 people came, and it was just really successful, and it really and it's still going. Every month. I left a couple of years ago, but that really cemented me in the community, because I suddenly had this huge network, and became a real part of this community, and people knew who I was, and I was on the front page of the local paper, and it was really it showed me that it was it was all volunteering, but it showed me that I could still do things, and I could still contribute my skills, and so it sort of kicked off this love that I have of helping and doing things.
Did it start like kind of motivating you to kind of look for something more, like think of something else that you could kind of bite your teeth into?
The main thing it did for me was, so this was 2013, and I started a Facebook page, and really started to see how powerful that was. So I was just learning as I went, but it was such an incredible channel. It was such a great way to get people would come from all over to this market, and it was because it was really humming on Facebook. And I think when I left a few years ago, 10,000 followers on Facebook, which was a lot. and from that, then I started to think, oh well, maybe I'm ready to go back and do something. And I started working part-time for the regional library group. That they've got libraries kind of across a huge part of Gippsland. So I was working in marketing for them for a few years, and then I was working also part-time for a builder. And during that time, while I was at the library, I'd started really thinking about social media and helping people and training them and stuff. And I'd started to put together some ideas for little courses or little classes that I could do through the libraries. And at the same time, because I had so many small businesses, all the market stall owners, to see how good it could be, and what that Facebook page and then later the Instagram account was doing to bring people in, and they wanted to know how to do it. So I was helping them. I was constantly kind of getting them set up and showing them how to do it, and fielding all of these questions. And I started to think, there's a real need for this, and there's just nothing like it around. There was really no one at that time. There's maybe a couple of people in Melbourne.
Yeah.
So I thought, well,
it wasn't easily accessible.
Yeah. And there's, obviously there's a lot of advice out there, so much advice out there, but it's not necessarily targeted, or it's not for regional areas. It's not relevant. So I went, you know what, I'm gonna do this little side hustle, and I'm gonna charge people a little bit to do what I do instead of getting a coffee in return. And I sort of launched that in just towards the end of February 2016. And then by July, I had to quit my job, and I was just like full-time. It was full-time in the business. Awesome. So it was really crazy.
Did you foresee, like, kind of go back a few years, did you think you'd ever start your own business?
No, absolutely not. There were a few times over the years when I worked in advertising that a few of us got together, got really close to starting an agency. Yeah, it just always really terrified me, to be honest. So, I mean, I think starting a business with other people is different. When you start something for yourself, the way that I did, it was like, well, I've only got myself to worry about.
It's not so much pressure in a way.
Yeah. I mean, there's pressures, but there's not that kind of responsibility. There's no overheads on my brain when I started. I didn't even have an office space then, and so I didn't have any overhead. So it was just kind of like, I'm going to do this thing, and if it works, it works, and if it doesn't, doesn't matter. I'll just go get a job. Yeah, but no, absolutely not. I still sometimes can't believe I'm, almost 7 years into this thing, and it's still going really well. So
yeah. Do you think, like, if you hadn't made the move to Warragul, because it's kind of like when you moved to Warragul and you started the farmers market, that's kind of when this circle kind of was created, and you sort of started going on this journey of gradually building a business. Do you think if you had stayed in Melbourne, you would have done the same thing?
No, I think I'd probably be a burnt out mess if I stayed in Melbourne.
That's me in Melbourne.
Yeah, I can't see how I would have pulled myself out of that industry, and I know that a lot of my friends and a lot of my contacts are still doing it, and but yeah, I guess we would have just worked. Life would have been different. I don't think I would have started something myself.
Yeah,
it's so competitive and hard in advertising, and to be honest, as I was leaving, we had that downturn.
Yeah,
and things got pretty awful. Having to lay off staff, and it was the first thing that gets cut, of course, is marketing and advertising. So I don't know if I could have weathered that storm in my own agency.
We were talking prior to starting the recording about imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Do you think that has been your biggest challenge in the business? Because we all experience it. We'll talk about both experienced it.
Yeah, maybe. I think that it stops me from doing things sometimes. The context of what we were talking about earlier was, I was just saying, I just found out that I was a finalist in the Raw Awards this year, and I don't really go for awards. When I get nominated, I go, oh, thank you so much for the nomination, and then I never go through with it. And this year, I nominated.
It's quite the process.
It is a process, and I got someone to help me with it this year, because I thought, I'm going to go for some, and I knew the ones that I wanted to go for, and I didn't get the first. I was a finalist, so I've been a finalist in the 3 that I put in a application for, so, which is amazing, absolutely amazing. And I didn't win the first 2, and whatever, but the way that it's helped me, I think I haven't even had a chance to really sit back and think about it, but I think I really needed it. I think I really needed something to just kick me in the bum and say, you're really good at this, and you've done a lot of amazing things, and I'm not very good at telling people all the stuff that I'm doing. I'm very private, and it's very hard to quantify what I do. I teach people how to use social media and marketing, and I help them with strategy, and I help them with confidence, and it makes them better. But it's very hard for them to turn around and say to me, because of you, I made this much money, or like it's
yeah, I know exactly what
kind
you
of
mean.
anecdotal.
Yeah.
And I also don't like talking about my clients. So it was sort of that thing where I was like, well, I've done all this amazing stuff over the last couple of years, like during COVID. And I feel like I want people to know that without me having to say it. And so I think those becoming a finalist makes me feel like, yeah, okay, right, I was seen.
It's the affirmation.
Yeah, and I think that'll, but at the same time, yeah, there's this little voice on my shoulder going, like even today I want to announce on my social media that I'm a finalist in this, but I'm like, I feel like a bit of a dick because I've just done that twice already this month, and I don't know. Anyway, do I think it's my biggest challenge? I don't know, probably. I don't know. It does stop me sometimes, and I think it does make me procrastinate sometimes, or perhaps not go for things that I think that I could.
Do you consider yourself an introvert?
I don't know. I don't think I'm either an introvert or an extrovert. I don't know if there's anything in the middle, but there are situations where, like if I go to a networking event, I can go and talk to people most of the time, but then other times I'll go and I'll just be like,
yeah.
I think, look, I think I'd probably lean towards introverted. Absolutely. A lot of stuff goes on up here. And I think I'm definitely more comfortable in kind of small groups.
Well, let's share what you've done in Perth, because recently that was in large groups.
Yeah, well, I got invited to do a workshop at the State of Social conference in Perth, which was amazing. And this is, well, the way that it actually came about was I said to my husband, I want to go State of Social next year. And he goes, no, don't go, you should speak there. Just send him an email and pitch, just tell him what you can do. And I was like, oh, yeah, okay. I did it. And then they got back to me and they said, yeah, we want you to come and speak. So I flew over there, and it was 2 days. And the first day was all of these amazing sort of industry professionals, and it's like really great, hundreds and hundreds of people, billboard up to stadium. It was really cool. And then on the second day, I did a 1 hour workshop to a room full of people, and
a packed room full of people. Thank you very much.
I guess my biggest fear, the thing that I was manifesting in my head, was no one coming to my workshop, because people had a choice. They could choose between 2 or 3, and I was like, what if no one turns up? And so I was trying to get used to that feeling. And then I was just saying this when we were chatting earlier, that the room started to fill, and it kept getting fuller and fuller and fuller. And I really genuinely hadn't prepared myself for that. So for the first time in a long time, I was like actually really nervous. And and that, like that's that little imposter syndrome.
Yeah. But snaps to that full room, awesome.
Yeah, it was great.
You made it happen.
And I got some clients out of it.
Your husband deserves a pat on the back for encouraging you. Good on him.
He does. And he is actually the guy who gets me past those moments where I think, and he's the one who sort of says, go for the award. You got nominated. Put a thing in, which is good. It's really good to have him on my side, because I think I'd probably I'd probably be very different if I didn't have him.
Well, it's easy, isn't it? Like when you are on your own, working on your own, it's easy to go back into your little bubble, retreat into your bubble, and kind of just sort of stay in that safe, warm place and not ever venture out. Sometimes we need to kick up the bum to get us out into the world. Yeah,
the last few weeks, I've definitely been in a bubble. I've just got so much work on, and it's my own fault, but I've barely left. I'm actually working from home at the moment. I can't even get into the office. I've got a sore back from being hunched to the computer, and I've just been in this real bubble, and I haven't really seen my friends, I haven't exercised, and I haven't done all of these things, and I'm just trying to get all this stuff done because it's school holidays.
Yeah.
Like tomorrow.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I love about my business, and one of the reasons why I do what I do, is because I try to take school holidays off to spend with the kids, but it always causes this just real bottleneck in the weeks leading up to school holidays, and then we go away, and I get back, and then it's just all piled on me again. So I haven't quite worked out how to make it work, but
I'm nodding along
what do
to
you do?
everything you're saying there, Erika, because I'm exactly the same. Like this week, I'm like, school holidays next week. I've got to quickly scramble, because like the same, I like to spend time, especially as they're, when they're getting older, they're not going to want to spend time with me anymore. So now while they're happy too, I'm trying to set aside that time. But it's it's that quest for balance, right? Like the never-ending quest for balance that doesn't exist.
Yeah, I think about balance, and I think it's never like that. It's always like this kind of balance.
The seesaw, yeah.
Yeah, and that's okay, because you do have up periods, but then you have down periods.
I wanted to talk a little bit more about your involvement in the rural area, because you're highly involved in your community and in the regions around you. Can you share a little bit more about, what organisations you're involved with? And also, I know you have a podcast coming out, so, but, can you share a little bit about that as well?
Well, I'm not really doing, because my business has just been a little bit hectic the last few years. I'm on the board of the Walhalla Goldfields Railway. That's kind of my little passion project at the moment. And they won an award the night that that I didn't win one. And I do a few little bits and pieces here and there. But yeah, the podcast that I've got coming out hopefully in the next few weeks is called Small Town Business, and it's going to be interviews with people doing amazing things from regional and rural, I hate saying that word, rural areas. And the reason that I wanted to start it is that I have this really great insight, because I work with all of these great businesses, and they're doing all of these incredible things, and they're in these small towns. And I just think it's a really fascinating, and sometimes people don't even know that they're in small towns, they've got such a big presence. So I wanted to just do a podcast and tell those stories. So it's really exciting. I've done lots of interviews, but it's very different when you're on the other side.
I'm the opposite. I find it harder being the interviewee, because I'm used to being the interviewer.
I think it's a real skill, and I've got someone helping me, because I was never going to get it done if I didn't. And I said to him, I felt really stiff, like I felt really a bit nervous, that I wanted to keep the conversation flowing, and I wanted to ask the right questions, and it was odd. But I did decide that with the first, I'd do a season and see how it went. And I was kind of I went for people that I know I've got a good story, that I already know, so that it could be a little bit more relaxed, so that when I start to interview people that I've never met, necessarily, or don't know very well, that it'll be I'll be hopefully better at it by then.
I'm sure you will. I'm sure you're fine already. Yeah. The pressure we're putting ourselves, there it is again.
I know. It's and then there's that imposter syndrome, and when I started to look at why it was taking me so long to get it done. Yes, I'm busy, but I probably could have done it and launched it when I said I was going to. But I think part of me was kind of going, do you really need to add your voice to the bloody gazillion podcasts out there? And because I listen to a lot as well, and I think, I'm not going to be that good, I'm not going to be that slick, and you do talk yourself into a hole. But there's always someone who, even if it's like 10 people who listen to it, if I can help those 10 people, that's awesome.
And that's the thing. I don't like the podcasts that are schmick. I like the ones where it sounds like I'm chatting with my mate.
Yeah.
The ones that I can relate to. And I think your audience would be the same.
Yeah, I think so. I hope so. I hope people listen to it, but
we will watch this space. Give it a plug.
Small town business.
Do you have maybe one or two highlights? So I think business 7 years.
Yeah, almost.
Challenges, imposter syndrome, and the pressure we put on ourselves.
Yeah.
Do you have a couple of highlights? Times when you were like, yeah, I can do this.
I think, look, 2020 was a weird year for me, because like everything, March hit, and I had workshops and things booked into October that year, and the first thing that happened was everybody either just kind of got in touch and said, look, we don't know what's going to happen, so let's just postpone this. And so I kind of went, oh shit, that's my business. My business is going out and doing workshops and speaking to people, and I'd never really cracked that nut of getting people comfortable in Zoom. A lot of people that I deal with aren't particularly tech savvy, and so I would offer it, and they would be like, oh no, I'd really rather see you in person. And so I had that real panic moment of, this is it. I'm not going to be able to do what I do. And then it wasn't that long after that I realized that it was actually a really good opportunity, and it was a really good opportunity for a lot of reasons. And I ended up having a completely massive year, ridiculously massive. But that take up that everyone had of Zoom and this situation just fundamentally changed my ability to do what I do. So now I'm not driving around so much anymore. So for me, it was a highlight in that sense, that it allowed me to do more and to reach more. And that year and last year, I was able to beam myself into so many communities and so many groups, and through local councils and through chambers of commerce and organizations like that booked me to help people. I was able to help people because all of these businesses that never really had an online presence before, because they didn't need one, all of a sudden found themselves with nothing. They had no shop. Their doors were closed. And so because I was able to help people, not because
when they needed it most.
Yeah.
Your reach was wider.
It was, and it was really, it was a really hard couple of years, because people were just so just in a real mess, and so for me it was really good to be able to help them and to get them going, and to see them still going and still thriving, and actually in a lot of cases really enjoying that they now have an online presence, that they now can use Instagram or Facebook or whatever, and they can see the value of it. So yeah, it was a strange highlight, but it really just, for a minute there, I thought, no, I'm not going to be able to do this anymore. And then I realized that it was more important than ever. And I still think it's, without being a gig, it's important. It's really important to people, because there's a lot of, you put a lot of responsibility, you put a lot of pressure on yourself when you're a small business owner. And one of those pressures is that you have to show up and you have to do bloody reels and you have to do this and that. And if you don't have that confidence, you don't have those skills, but you're really good at your job, or you've got a really great product, there's a lot of self-esteem that's tied up in this inability to do that stuff. So I think it's really, important.
Well, that's it as well. Like, following you on Instagram, like, you give away so much information, so many tips, so many tricks, and all really practical and all as quick as possible, things that are really easy. Like, I love the way that you deliver it, because you make it easy for people who don't, they may not have a love for dancing with reels or whatever it is, which completely understandable. Yeah. So it's like you give away so much free already with what you do, because there's a genuine care there. Anyone can see there's a genuine care to help small businesses succeed on socials.
Yeah, that's what I want to do. And that Instagram profile is there for that exact reason. That's how I use it. And I try to just translate what's happening in that space into something that people can actually understand. So I don't necessarily say you have to do this or you should do this. And I don't like to deal in those sorts of general statements. People still ask me all the time, how many posts a week should I do? And I'm like, it doesn't matter. Just make good posts. But I do try to sort of put them out there as more like a thought starter. Like, this is something that is happening. This is a tool that you could use, and this is how you might use it. And I know that a lot of people can't afford help, and I know that a lot of people are just Googling. And so I want to be a place where people can come and get safe advice, like qualified, real, thoughtful, with their future in mind kind of advice.
And how good is it? So when you see one of your followers or one of your clients, you see them put it into practice, and then you see how proud they are of themselves as well, because they've learned this new thing, and they're like, actually, I can do this.
Oh, it's awesome. It's so awesome. And I love it too. A lot of people will message something to me, like they'll message me or tag me in a reel and go, oh my God, I did it. And it's exciting, because it's so important to people, because you sit on the sidelines and you watch all of your competitors and you watch all of these other people sort of breeze in and do it really naturally. And if it doesn't come naturally to you and you don't really get it, God, it's the worst feeling. And that's a real downside to social media, is being able to see what everyone else is doing daily,
because
and not being able to do it.
Yeah, and it makes you feel invisible. Like, you kind of like, all these people are doing all this stuff, and what am I doing? You kind of feel that pressure. But like you said, it's not about quantity, it's about quality as well. Because of your involvement in these local businesses, have you seen their confidence grow?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's great. I love it. I love seeing, and you know what, sometimes it's hit and miss. But the main thing is that it's really cool to see people have a crack at doing stuff. And it makes them feel really good, because there's nothing worse than being really passive when you know you need to do something and sitting back and not doing it. At least, they're out there and get better and better and better. And as I always say to people, if it's really shit, you can just delete it. And
but we've all done that. I do that still.
Yeah, God, I do it still. I did something the other day and it tanked, and I knew it was the wrong time to post it. I just did it anyway. Just deleted it, just did it later, and then do it later, and it works.
Yeah, 100%. So, Erika, what do you kind of foresee for you and your business in the future?
Oh, that is it. I don't know at this point.
I'm like that too.
I'm working on a few different things at the moment. I'm not really at a point where I can talk about it, but I same for the moment. And then there's I've got some stuff that I'm kind of working on, which will change things a little bit, but I don't think I'm going to change. I'm certainly not going to change my my kind of business values or my intention or what I want to achieve with the business. It's just finding different ways to do it.
Yeah,
at the moment is finding ways to make my life a little bit easier. Like I just I'm up to pussy's bow at the moment, and not really willing to I don't want to grow an agency. I don't want to have, I've got people that work for me, but I don't want to have like a full-time staff, and I don't want any of that.
I think that's like something that we all have in common, or definitely a lot of us at She Will Shine have in common, is because we don't want the big shebang business, the big empire.
No.
We just want something that suits our life. We're able to help our clients, spread the word of whatever it is that we're doing, But it doesn't have to be the biggest. It doesn't have to be the loudest. It doesn't have to be, I don't know, the be all and end all of whatever our industry is. But to just have what we see as something that's easily manageable, because we all have responsibilities outside of our businesses and things that we love. We love our families, but also things that we love to do and friends we want to see, a lifestyle that we want. And it's about creating that business to work within that lifestyle, but also within the business, of course, to get better and grow and that kind of thing. But it's not growing into this big conglomerate. It's kind of growing into something that we still are able to hold.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Because sometimes I feel like, especially in the space that I'm in, in that coaching space, sometimes I feel like it's a bit of a dirty, not a dirty word, but like a weird concept when I say to people, I don't want to scale to 7 figures. I don't want to do any of this stuff. Like, I'm not motivated by money. I'm motivated by lifestyle at the moment. I mean, I don't know what I'll do in the future, but certainly I'm motivated by the fact that I have breakfast with my kids every day, take them to school, pick them up, take them to their after school activities, catch up with friends. Like, I'm motivated by lifestyle. And you need money, you need income. But I'm also motivated by like results. I'm motivated by what I do and the value. So if I was to grow, like, how do I grow when it's all in my head? Like, how do I so anyway, I don't know. And I don't know, sometimes I think people look at me and they're like, but you could do this and you could do that, and I'm like, I could, I just don't know if I want to. I just want to have, I don't know, I'm getting old. I want to have I just want to have a life. I want to enjoy my life while I'm, able. Yeah. And before my kids move out and go off to uni and leave me. So, yeah.
What do your kids think about, like, what you do? Do they kind of, like, my daughter makes me laugh. Like, the other day she said she's starting a business and with her friend and blah, blah. And so I was like, oh, that's great, whatever. And then she said to me this morning, she goes, oh, but we're not going to charge for what we do. I'm like, oh, okay. I can just kind of, okay, we'll just, I'm not going to say
business, darling.
Yeah. Just going to let her have fun and see what she what does. But do you know what I mean? Like, do you think what you're doing is influencing your kids?
Oh, massively. Absolutely. They, I think it's hard to tell with my son, but I know with Meg, she's always been really influenced by me. She was really into the farmers market. Just, she kind of went through this phase where she was constantly coming up with ideas and wanting to help, and then she went through a phase where she would draw logos for people, and and she's, I think what I'm demonstrating to her is you can do whatever you want. You just got to be really passionate about it. My mum, it took me a while. Actually, I think it honestly took me to start my own business before I really realized that my mum, that I'm more like her than I think, because she, when we were kids, she kind of had a couple of little businesses and stuff. She started a business with a friend, and so she had a shop in the town that we were in. There was another shop in the town that the friend was in. It was like I think it was called Knit and Sew, and it was the 80s, man. And they sold wool and sewing stuff, and then they also had this whole group of like old ladies who you could go in and commission a jumper. Those big kind of 80s crazy shit. Yeah. Anyway, so she was entrepreneurial, but she was always there. And we would go down to the shop after school, and she did that to fit around, the kids. And it's funny, it wasn't until I started my business that I started to go, I see what you did there. And now I'm doing it because you showed me the way. And we had a really great childhood. And, we were always going on camping trips and holidays and, all of this stuff, which is what I'm doing with my kids now. So, I mean, part of that was why we moved down here, was to be able to give them that lifestyle. And I think having a massive business or a big agency with all of this staff and all these overheads, I couldn't do that stuff. So I don't know, I got lost there, but I think it's influencing my kids, definitely. Full stop.
That's not, podcasts aren't full of full stops. We're going to keep talking. you're quite in a happy place right now with everything.
No, it is good. It's really good.
Yeah. But you really should be proud of what you have achieved. Like, how many businesses have you been able to help over, what was it, 7 years?
Yeah, a lot.
When you think about it, that's a lot of people.
Yeah.
That's a lot of businesses, a lot of lives.
Yeah. I mean, like, I've personally worked with hundreds, and but then, like the flow on effect of, like, even like all the webinars and like thousands of people, there's a lot of people. And I think I don't know, I'm not very good at talking about stuff like that, but yeah, I'm really proud.
Yeah, and you should be. I don't think that we recognize that enough within ourselves. Like, it does take someone else to say it for you to go, oh yeah, actually.
Yeah, and that's part of these communities. That's part of being in She Will Shine, is that I know that if something really awesome happens to me, I can go in there and I can say, hey, everyone, just this really exciting thing happened to me, and everyone will get it. And even though I don't know, half the people very, very well at all, they'll all be cheering, and they'll all be like, oh my God, so good on you. And it's not the kind of thing that you can necessarily stand up and say, at a party or something. Oh, hey, guess what? I'm a finalist for this award, and you feel like you can't do that. So it's nice to have these communities where everybody's focused on the same thing, and that is supporting each other through this crazy little business owning life that we have. That if you don't own a business, you just don't get it. It's impossible to really understand.
But obviously you've got a very supportive husband, and I think having those allies as well that aren't in business but kind of can push us along when they know that we're capable of doing and achieving things is priceless as well.
Two of my really good friends in town both have businesses as well, and actually their husband and wives are in the businesses together. And I haven't managed to convince Dom to come into the business yet, but so it's really nice. Actually, more than two, like heaps of people that I know, really, when I think about it. And so it's nice to have those people to talk through issues with as well. But I honestly, if Dom didn't help me, like on the weekend, I said, the guy who's helping me with my podcast, he's like, you need to get your website up because we've got to be able to host this thing. And I was like, Dom just sat down and just smashed one out for me. She's like, I'll just do it. Just gets on there and he's like, what about this? What about this photo? What about this color? What about this?
I think you need to rent him out. Is he available this weekend?
No, we're going away. But no, it was, and he, like he had things he wanted to do. He wanted to go to the gym, and he wanted to do all this other stuff. But like, he recognizes when he has opportunities to participate in it and help, and he's always doing it, even though I'm sure it pisses him off sometimes. I'm sure what he wanted to say was, why are you telling me this on Sunday? But he still did it.
Oh, bless his cotton socks. Love it. What a keeper.
Yeah, it was good. We went to Sydney I think it was last weekend, maybe, for an award, and I took him, and we went to this like massive fancy gala dinner and stayed in a fancy hotel and just hung out together, and it was nice. It was nice to be able to say, we did this and you're a part of it, and it was good.
To involve him. Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for your time this morning, Erika. It's always a pleasure talking to you.
I keep forgetting that we're actually recording this, and then I kind of go, oh yeah, we're recording this.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm just chatting to you.
That's it. Love it. Every time we chat, I'll just hit record.
Yeah, do that. We'll just turn into a podcast. I'm not sure that's legal, but yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. But thank you so much for sharing your story with us today. I would just want to share with you that I just love how you embrace anything that you're involved in. Just like you embrace She Will Shine 1,000%. Like everything that I see you're involved in you really embrace it, and you spend time and make the most of opportunities and show up. And I just think that's fabulous. So keep doing what you're doing.
I will try. Thank you. That's very kind of you. And yeah, no, it's been really great to be part of the community. And one day I'm going to get down to one of the coffees and the co-working, and just hectic.
We might bring one to you.
Do that.
Watch this space.
That'd be awesome. I'd like
Warrigal, watch out. We're coming for you.
Let's do that.
Awesome. Have a great day, Erika. Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone for joining us today. I know that you've enjoyed Erika's story as much as I have, and we'll be back with you with another episode soon. See you later.
Thanks for joining us. If you enjoyed this episode of the She Will Shine podcast, we invite you to check out shewillshine.com.au. She Will Shine is the essential support network you need to grow a thriving, meaningful business. We can help you grow your network, connect and develop genuine relationships, be supported, and support others in building and growing a successful business on your terms. Say goodbye to working alone and become a member at shewillshine.com.au.